ఆకర్షణీయమైన చీరలు, అబ్బురపరిచే ధరలు, అందరికీ నచ్చిన అందరూ మెచ్చిన షో మన లక్కీ మహిళ. బోలెడంత ఎక్సైట్మెంట్, వండర్ఫుల్ విన్నింగ్ మూమెంట్స్.
ఎగ్జాక్ట్ చెప్పారు, మీరే గెలుచుకున్నారండి. కంగ్రాచులేషన్స్, $220.
సెలబ్రిటీ హోస్ట్లు, అదిరిపోయే పంచులు, సరదా సరదా కబుర్లు.
ఆశ దోశ అప్పడం వడ హెల్ప్ మీరు ఆడుతున్నారు.
ఇలా మరెన్నో మెమరబుల్ మూమెంట్స్ తోటి థర్డ్ యానివర్సరీ జరుపుకుంటోంది మన లక్కీ మహిళ. Watch it live only on TVASIA Telugu. మీ అందరికీ థర్డ్ యానివర్సరీ శుభాకాంక్షలు. ఆకర్షణీయమైన చీరలు, అబ్బురపరిచే ధరలు, అందరికీ నచ్చిన అందరూ మెచ్చిన షో మన లక్కీ మహిళ. బోలెడంత ఎక్సైట్మెంట్, వండర్ఫుల్ విన్నింగ్ మూమెంట్స్.
ఎగ్జాక్ట్ చెప్పారు, మీరే గెలుచుకున్నారండి. కంగ్రాచులేషన్స్, $220.
సెలబ్రిటీ హోస్ట్లు, అదిరిపోయే పంచులు, సరదా సరదా కబుర్లు.
ఆశ దోశ అప్పడం వడ హెల్ప్ మీరు ఆడుతున్నారు.
ఇలా మరెన్నో మెమరబుల్ మూమెంట్స్ తోటి థర్డ్ యానివర్సరీ జరుపుకుంటోంది మన లక్కీ మహిళ. Watch it live only on TVASIA Telugu. మీ అందరికీ థర్డ్ యానివర్సరీ శుభాకాంక్షలు.
Hello, and welcome back to yet another fabulous episode of our talk show with experts. ఇవాళ మనతో ఉన్నారు మన ఇమిగ్రేషన్ ఎక్స్పర్ట్ ఎమిలీ న్యూమన్ గారు. ఎమిలీ గారు, థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్ అండి for being on the show today.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. It's lovely having you here. To all our viewers, please call our expert Emily today at 1-833-882-8872. Number again is 1-833-882-8872. I always tell you guys, please call us, because in case if you're missing a critical part of your question, a small piece of information, it'll be easier if we have you on the phone line for you to provide us that information right away, so Emily can give you guys a better picture as to what you can do. Also, watch us on Yup TV, Facebook, YouTube, Sling TV, World BB TV, and Dish Network. All right, coming to the topic for today. This is always a fun one. Comparing Democratic and Republican approaches to employment-based immigration. Now, Emily, there's always been talks about, one side always being better than the other, or, there's always pros with, each side, but there's also cons with each side. So let's talk a little bit about, what do you define as like some of the key differences, or where does one or the other party like lack or, is better,
Yeah, I think that kind of big picture, the Democratic Party tends to be more pro-worker and the Republican Party tends to be more pro-business. but a lot of times with immigration, you have businesses that need immigrants and want immigrants, but at the same time, the Republicans tend to be less favorable towards immigration, while the Democrats are, pro-worker, but they're also not able to get anything accomplished either, because one of the other big differences is the Democrats tend to want comprehensive reform. They want to fix everything all at once, whereas the Republicans tend to try to do more piecemeal. And both of them have their good points. I mean, with comprehensive, definitely the whole system is broken. There's lots of parts that need to be fixed, and it's much easier to negotiate all at once and just fix it at once instead of doing one fix that's a Band-Aid and now it creates another problem that they didn't anticipate. Now we need to come up with another Band-Aid and that sort of thing. And the other difficulty with the piecemeal is, how do you decide what gets to go first? So of course, with the Republicans wanting to do piecemeal, they're all about border security and enforcement. They need to, stop the fentanyl coming across the border and stop the criminals and all of that. And only once the border is absolutely secure are they willing to talk about anything else, which means it's practically impossible because the border is never going to be 100% secure. I mean, we've been talking about this for decades. I mean, in 1986, with Reagan, we had immigration reform. Much of it was enforcement-based, and the other part of it was kind of amnesty-based. So they provided a path for some undocumented people at that time. At the same time, they created the I-9 form. They created all of these enforcement provisions where employers could not hire someone if they weren't authorized to work. And where did that get us? 40 years later, we still have the same problem. So clearly that didn't work. And then 1996, we come around, and this time it's Clinton, which Democrat, you would think pro-immigration, when they did their reform, that's where they created the 3 and 10-year bars and made it almost made everything worse, because that's what causes undocumented people to stay. Because once they leave, if you're stuck outside for 3 or 10 years, it's just easier to stay. So that didn't fix anything either. And that's really the last major reform we've had. And no one can really come up with anything on either the comprehensive side or the piecemeal side. No one wants to work together. I think, really since COVID, we've seen even more division in the public and in our politics. They can't agree on anything, which leaves us with very little options when immigration is something that Congress is supposed to be reforming. But now we're at the point where we've got to see what can the Biden administration do without Congress.
Emily, do you think 9/11 sort of changed the fabric of, how each party dealt with immigration forever, perhaps? Or, how do you think that played a role?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that prior to 9/11, we had not a lot of security, national security, homeland security didn't even exist. So we have this whole new department that combined several different aspects. I mean, 9/11 is the reason that we stopped renewing visas stateside, which now we're trying to bring that back. We've added all of these additional security provisions, which just gums up the system and delays everything. Now, of course, yes, security is important. But, how many terrorists have we actually caught with all of these extra security provisions that we're going through? I don't know if they've just cast the net too wide, but how do you come back from that when we know that, 9/11 happened because of lapses in our national security at the time?
Do you think they're doing this more as a deterrent rather than being able to capture people? Or, what?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's meant to be a deterrent. Let's, make the enforcement as strict as we can, make the penalties very strict so that people don't even try. I think that's what they envisioned, but is it actually deterring people? I don't know.
We never know. And I hope we never need to find out,
Yeah, for
sure. All right, sorry, let me have you continue.
Yeah. So the other things I think, with the Democrats and the Republicans, especially the Democrats tend to be, although they're pro-worker, they're more pro, people that can't fend for themselves or people that are disadvantaged, I would say. They want to protect them. And so that kind of leaves the skilled immigrants, high skilled immigration left off to the side because they can, I guess, fend for themselves. I don't know what the thought process is there. At the same time, I find it odd that the Republicans being so pro-business when we need labor, we need skill, we want the best and brightest, we want the talent here because that's how we stay competitive worldwide. Yet we're just closing our doors constantly. We're making things so difficult. I don't know if you saw the Cato Institute actually put out a game, which is sad to think that's how we have to think of immigration, but it's called the Green Card Game. They just came out with it on Monday.
Oh my
and
God.
You can go on there and you can put in your information and it will like give you options and say, okay, well, if you're from this country, you might qualify for the diversity visa. Let's check. And then all of a sudden it says, nope, you don't qualify for that. And then you put in more information and it just goes through all the different things. And there's a random bureaucracy, like some of it's just luck, pure luck if you get through and you don't get through. So it really captures exactly what I think immigrants are feeling today. Not to say that it's a game, but just to show how hard it is to actually legally immigrate, because I think a lot of Americans don't realize that. I think that they think, oh, there's a line. People just don't want to get in the line. But there is no line. Where there is a line, it's so hard to get into it, and then you're stuck in it forever. How long do we expect people to just wait around and not be able to move forward in their lives and their careers? So I definitely recommend people check that out and share it with your friends who may not be as knowledgeable in immigration so people can see what it really is like.
And Emily, if there was sort of one piece of advice that you would give to each side, the Democrats and the Republicans, what would you tell them to do to make, and how would you, tell them how to make immigration better?
Yeah. I think what we've lost over the last, years with all of just the division, and you see it all on social media so much, is just a lack of compromise, a lack of willing to hear the other side, because both sides definitely have needs. They have things that they feel strongly about and they want to be addressed, but at the same time, you can't only do what you want and not listen to anyone else and not be flexible. And I think the sides are just so polarized right now that no one's willing to give an inch, which of course, when you compromise, a lot of times you end up with a bill that no one likes, but at least it's moved us forward. There's good parts to it. There's bad parts to it, but they're not even willing to do that. So they just need to actually come together across the aisle, work together in a bipartisan manner, get back to how politics should work, and communicate and be willing to compromise.
So this cancel culture, like you explained it, right? It's called the cancel culture. People, we seem to live in the world of the, cancel culture here. But how do you propose that, so, people get past this whole cancel culture? What might help them? What do you think might help them?
Yeah, I think it is humanizing how these issues are impacting people, sharing your story. There was a really good TED Talk that I shared a couple of weeks ago, and I think Rahul did too. I think it was a 14-year-old girl from India who was talking about, what it's like for her compared to like her best friend who happened to be born here, and how their lives are so different, because she's worried about, am I going to have to self-deport when I turn 21? She's already thinking about that, and it's 7 years away, but it's so possible that she's going to have to because of our current system, and people just don't know that. So I think it's a matter of bringing awareness and bringing that human touch, sharing the personal stories is what's going to get a lot more across compared to tweeting and retweeting. And, there's people that just like tweet at USCIS or tweet at the president and say, fix immigration, fix the backlog, do this, do that. That's not going to get us anywhere. Twitter is great, social media is great, but it's got to be more about bringing awareness. And then you've got to meet with your representatives, send letters to your representatives. Again, share your story with them so they can see the real human impact of the decisions they're making or not making. Because a lot of this is they're choosing not to engage for whatever reason, and they need to understand that that's having a real human cost.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times we do hear about such stories when it's about like undocumented, people who are coming in and, their life experiences and how it's impacted them. But we never really hear the side of, people who are actually, taking the time and, making sure that they're following the rules to get here as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And how they still can go through something very similar to what an undocumented person goes through here, even after, following the system. So that's where I think, it'll help a lot. So thank you for that, Emily. Anything else you'd like to add to this before we go ahead?
No, I think we can move on.
Okay, let's start taking a couple of calls, and then I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about another topic as well. Let's take our first caller for the day. Okay, caller with number ending in 5906. 5906, we're ready for you now. Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, sir. Thank you for calling. Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Nitya and Emily, for taking our call. I have one question regarding my visa and travel. So I am on F1 visa and working on OPT STEM extension, and I need to travel for work to Canada for a week. And I have the situations for I-20 visa and passport. I'll show you. So my I-20 is valid till September 2024, and my passport got stolen around 2 years ago, which had my visa stamping till November 2024. Now I applied for a new passport and I have it in my possession. However, the new passport doesn't have any visa stamping on it. The question is, am I still eligible for automatic visa revalidation for my travel to Canada and return after a week?
That's a good question. I think that had you had the passport and your visa expired, clearly you would, and you're in a different situation because your visa is valid, but the passport's gone. I would be hesitant to travel in that situation and try to use automatic visa revalidation because you don't have the actual visa in your passport that's expired for them to look at. So yeah, that makes me nervous. I think you would need a new visa stamp, unfortunately.
Hello?
Also, in addition to that, USCIS did give us the STEM OPT and then 2-year extension, even though we had a lost passport. So,
so for that's a different issue because you're with USCIS. Everything you're submitting is copies. So you have the copy of your passport, and what you're giving the the OPT and the STEM is based on the fact that you have an I-94 and an I-20 that are valid. It's not based on having a valid visa stamp because you can get a STEM extension even if your visa is expired, let alone having lost that passport. So just because USCIS gave the STEM extension, completely different issue than traveling because they're different agencies even on top of that. You've got CBP when you're traveling, you've got USCIS when you're filing a STEM extension. So yeah, I would be very hesitant to travel in that situation unless you're planning to go for visa stamping.
Okay, thanks for the information, Emily. I really appreciate it. I'll just cancel my plan. Thank you so much.
Yeah, or try to see if you can get the visa appointment while you're in Canada. They are becoming more available, and they do allow people to apply in a third country.
Yeah, so the only reason I'm hesitant to get the visa stamping there is that I have 1 year, 4 months left in my STEM OPT. What if they ask me questions like, oh, you went to US for the studies, not for work, and you're working now. So there are different variables floating in the air. So I have to evaluate everything. Do you have any input on that?
No, you're definitely right. I mean, when you go for stamping, whether it's in Canada or in your home country, for an F1 particularly, you've always got to show that non-immigrant intent, that you have the residence abroad, that you don't intend to abandon, and that you plan to return back to your home country at the end of your studies, which can be hard to do when you're close to the end of your studies and then you're working because you're now technically at the end of your studies. So yeah, that can be a different risk in trying to travel and get the visa stamp at that stage of your OPT.
Yeah, and in addition to that, I'm married to a H1B holder. So if I'm stuck in India or Canada, we would live apart until I get a new visa. Even if it's H4 or something else, to come back to my husband. So it's a lot of, like I said, variables in the air. So,
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking our questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for calling. Have a nice day. All right. Emily, I have a question. This is from Chica Boy Creations. I'm taking this question first mainly because he has like a 30-day time box issue. Says, my son is turning 14 years old in October. Do I need to renew his green card? He says, can I or must I, renew the green card?
So generally, when the green card is issued to someone who's under 14, it's considered a conditional green card, and it does have to be renewed. The timing of that renewal may be different depending on when exactly the green card was issued. But yes, it does absolutely need to be renewed.
Okay, cool. Thank you. All right. Let's take our next caller. Okay. Caller with number ending in 1056. 1056. We're ready for you now. Hello?
Yeah. Hi, Emily. You're able to hear me?
So we can hear you. Please go ahead.
I applied for two I485s on October 2020 in EB3. I did a downgrade, and both my I-140 are approved. And I have I got the EAD and advance parole, but I also received a interview for one of the I-485 on October 2022. So I went for the interview with the family, and she asked all the questions, and it went fine. But she kind of indicated that after 4 weeks I may receive the green card like that. But we never talked about two I-485s actually, and it was with one I-485 which we talked, the whole interview went. Now my question is like, after October 2022, there was no change in my status. Just the interview happened. After that, they didn't tell any status and all. So now at this stage, in the EB3, I'm not currently active. That means I have to wait for another 1 or 2 months for the date to move. What do you think? What do you suggest for me? Do you want me to revoke or cancel one of the I-485 which has been submitted, or what would be the best case? Because I have everything in two. That means I have two EADs, one advance parole, and for each I-485 I have two EADs actually.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I generally say keep both of them going until USCIS tells you have to withdraw one or the other. And they usually only do that when they're ready to approve one or the other, because they need the other one to be withdrawn. There's no problem with having the two pending, and you never know which date is going to become current first or which 485 they're ready to adjudicate first. Depending on, I don't know if they're both at the National Benefit Center, or maybe yours is still at the field office from when you had your interview. You just don't know. And so when you have the two, it just gives you more opportunities for one of them to be approved faster compared to withdrawing one, because you don't know if that's the one where maybe they got everything finished on.
these two EADs are from 2 485s are from the same priority date and they are in the same category, which is EB3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even still, I mean, so what was the reason for filing two, since they were based on the same labor and I-140?
Yeah, the idea for me is I had a kid who is going out of status, like out of age outing. So to be safer side, I filed a 2 I485. That is a mistake I made. So because of that, to protect my kid extra safe, that's what I did. I filed 2 I485. So in case if one is rejected, at least with one I can get my kid the green card. That's my idea.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Just in case one was like filed incorrectly and got sent back, you'd have the other one
No.
to lock
Both
their age in, or?
Both are. No. I didn't receive any incorrect rejections or anything. It's just.
No, but the reason that you filed the two was because you were afraid one of them might be rejected, right? So you wanted to have a backup plan?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly correct.
Even though they're still in the same category, you just don't know which one they're going to pull up first and say, oh, the date's current, let's just approve it. So I don't see any reason to withdraw one and keep the other one going. I would keep both going until USCIS tells you otherwise. That's just been how I guide my clients that are kind of in similar situations. I like to keep all of my options open as long as possible.
Yeah, thank you, Emily. Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling. All right. Okay, before we take our next caller, Emily, I just wanted to quickly touch base on, the second round of selections on the H1B lottery. You mentioned that there are some updated stats that you have on the date of selection, and also just want to know, has it ended, first of all, the second round of selections?
Yes. So oddly, this time was the first time they actually announced that they completed the second round of the lottery. So they, I think, announced on the Friday that they were doing one, which that's new because before they just kind of randomly started sending notices and nobody knew what to expect. And then this was also the first time on the following Monday, they came out and said, okay, we're done sending the notices. If you've not gotten a notice by now, you're not selected. So that allowed us to kind of look at our data within our office and see kind of what the rate of selection was with the second round. And it seems like they selected a pretty decent number, which before I don't think they did. Because we were looking at about a 15 or 16% selection rate in the first round, which was just ridiculous. But now we're up to about 22%. So we did have quite a number that were selected in the second round. But I think we're going to have the same problem because, and they did come out and tell us how many they selected in the second round. If I remember, it was maybe 77,000 or something in that range. Wow. But I think 60% of those are duplicates because of they didn't kick anybody out of those duplicates. So we're still going to get of that number, that second round, a lot of people are not and should not file if they're in that duplicate situation. So we may even see a third round. I don't know. This is a whole new ball game. And yeah, so our firm kind of early on when we were seeing these numbers like this registration, 700,000 registrations, that's just ridiculous. There's no way these are all accurate. And then just seeing the selection rate being so low, we actually did a Freedom of Information Act request with the government and we received it back and we had to sue them to get it because normally they take forever. Yeah. But so we basically got a list of every single company that registered in the lottery and how many registrations they submitted. So, the top ones, they're the household names. You expect them to be the top ones, the Amazons and the Metas and the Cognizant and all that sort of thing. But then you get not very far down the list and there's company that you've never heard of submitting 1,400 registrations. Wow. And then 3 names down is another company you've never heard of submitting 1,200. And you can look these companies up on the H1B Data Hub on the USCIS website or that My Visa Jobs website, and you can see they've maybe submitted 50 H1Bs ever. from that data, and now all of a sudden they have 1,400 jobs they're trying to fill, 1,200 jobs they're trying to fill. So, you know, it just goes to show kind of what we expected with all of these duplicates happening. But for a company to just submit that many, I was quite shocked with that.
Yeah, that's
and then, yeah, kind of the top, I think it was about the top 10 companies. If all of theirs had been selected, that would have been enough right there to fill the 85,000 slots. So clearly there's not enough H1B visas for the demand, but at the same time, the demand is very inflated because of all these duplicates. So it's just a ridiculous system. That, you know, the government is claiming they're trying to come up with a way to fix it. They've got a regulation and process, they claim, but that's not supposed to come out, even be proposed until December, which means there's no way it's going to get the commenting done and then them finalize it and publish it in time for next March. So we're going to be facing the same issues next year. I think the only thing that might change next year is the fee. So it's the $10 registration fee. They've proposed to increase that to somewhere around $200. I don't think that's enough to make a difference.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, we may be facing another year of this craziness unless we start seeing criminal actions. Now that might scare people enough to say, you know, I don't want to even try these duplicates. I'm just going to put my name in once. That hopefully we'll see that. Not that I want people to be, you know, going to jail or anything like that, but I think people need to see the consequences before they will actually be deterred from doing it again.
Right. And what's sort of your 2 cents for people who have, you know, filed in such a way and have gotten selected? What would you tell them?
We would say definitely don't file the petition because as of this point, you know, the registration, it's there, but what can cause a permanent bar generally is fraud or misrepresentation in trying to obtain an immigration benefit. So if you don't actually file the petition, there's no way for you to really try to obtain an immigration benefit. So I think you're minimizing your risk of getting hit with a fraud or misrepresentation finding that is ultimately a permanent bar. So I would definitely not file if you're in that situation.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And also, Emily, before we quickly go to the other calls, I know there's been a lot of talk about the current Biden administration possibly making filing dates current in October. Is that true? Is it just like a rumor that's afloat? And if it is true, then sort of what would be the benefit and what would be some negative ramifications of such a move?
Yeah, so it's not something that's coming from the Biden administration as of right now. It's something that people are proposing and wanting the Biden administration to do. It does have some, it's gaining momentum because there was a group of representatives in the House, I think there were 56 that signed on to this letter urging the Biden administration to make the filing date current in October. Basically, the argument is that on October 1st, next year's 140,000 employment-based green cards become available. That means green cards are immediately available. They have not been allocated yet. And so you can accept I-485 applications whenever a green card is immediately available. So they're saying, well, they're immediately available. No one's taken them yet. So it would basically allow people to file the 485, get the EAD, get the advanced parole, have the ability to change jobs after 180 days. So they get those benefits, but it would not make the filing date move any faster. So these people would be stuck in 485 processing for a decade, potentially, you know, because there are just so many people in the pipeline. They came out with the statistics through the second quarter of the year, which was, I think, through March 2023. There were 700,000 approved petitions in the employment-based category, all the categories combined, where a visa is not currently available. So we're talking about opening it up to potentially 700,000 people filing in the month of October. That doesn't count their family members. So potentially a million a million and a
okay.
half people filing. Could you imagine USCIS handling all of those 485s? Look how
Oh.
they did October 2020. That was a train wreck. It took them 7 months just to issue receipt notices, you
I
know.
know.
So I don't think the agency might be willing to do this because they don't have a way to take in that many applications all at once.
Right.
And, you know, they're saying one of the benefits to the agency is for every single one of those, you're paying $1,200 in filing fees. So the government's going to get a ton of money from these filings, which is true. But then they are tying themselves to have to renew EADs and APs for free for the whole family for a decade, possibly even longer. So I don't know if they're going to really be willing to do that. So I like the idea. I think that it's a stretch to say visas are immediately available for 700,000 people when there's only 140,000 available.
Right.
So that's where it makes me concerned that it could be struck down by a court relatively easily.
Okay.
Because there are definitely going to be anti-immigrant groups that are going to say, no, we don't think this is lawful. We're not going to allow you to do that. I mean, then the other thing is just you're taking in all of these applications that you can never approve for years and years and years and years. So we're just, again, adding a Band-Aid. Now, one of the really good things about it is it would, under the latest policy, it would freeze the age of the kids. So it would help kids from aging out once they're able to file in October. So I love that part of it. But just how long are we then going to wait? It still doesn't fix anything. We still have the 7% cap. We still just don't have enough green cards.
Okay. Gotcha. All right, let's take our next caller. Okay, caller with number ending in 8296. 8296, we're ready for you now. Hello? Caller with number ending in 8296. Hello? Hello? Please press *6 to unmute your line. *600 to unmute your line.
Yeah,
hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Nitya?
Go ahead, sir, please.
Yeah, hi, Nitya.
Hi,
Hi,
sir.
Nitya, MD. Good evening.
Hello. Good evening.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir, we can hear you.
Hi. My question is, MD, I'm on EB2 EAD, graduated in 2013. So now my daughter aged out, so she has completed her BTech in India, came to visit TVASIA on B2 2 weeks back over here in US. So now she decided to go for masters, and without going to India, any chances to get from F1, means from B1, B2 to F1 visa in USA itself? And any suggestions, please, Emily?
Yes, it is possible nowadays. So it was much more difficult, over the last probably 5 to 10 years, but they've changed some of their policies on that. So basically you have to, whatever program she's going to be entering into, say it's going to be a fall program, which is probably a little bit late for that. But let's say she was going to start a program September 1st. And so she's already on B2 and her B2 is ending, within August 15th, for example. So the law allows that as long as your current status is valid to within 30 days of the program start date, you're still eligible to file that change of status and get the approval, even if your B2 expires while it's in process. And you now do not have to file what we used to call a B2 bridge to keep extending her status while she waits for the F1 to be approved. The one restriction to be aware of is when you're filing that change of status, she won't be able to start classes until it's actually approved. She can't take classes while it's pending.
Okay. So, Emily, my straight question in this point is now she just came 2 weeks back. She got a 6-month validity visa. That means till January 2024. And she is just thinking to plan for spring, next spring for her master's, because she needs to done for GRE, those stuff, right? So definitely for fall she's not, but she's planning for spring. So now January, she's having the valid visa till January 2024. Before that, she can get ready, or they may not open the visa, right, for spring by that time.
They probably won't approve it. So she can file it, but they probably won't approve it in time for her to actually start the classes in spring. So she would need to work with her school's designated school official, the DSO in the International Students Office, to have her program start date moved forward to summer probably. And then that way, once her F1 gets approved, she can start classes in the summer. Because sometimes they'll automatically move the program start date to the following fall. And then that's going to create a very long gap, and they likely wouldn't approve the F1. They'd be ready to approve it, but the start date's so far in the future that they may not. So you'd want to work with the school to have them, assuming it's still pending in January and she can't start classes then, have her start in the summer so that they can approve the F1.
Okay, so you're saying that enough vacuum is available from B2 to F1 to convert, okay, by staying here in USA.
It is doable, yes. Yeah, so she'll need to, generally they want like a written statement of why they want to study, proof that she has a residence abroad, that she doesn't intend to abandon, that she doesn't intend to stay here permanently, and that she has sufficient financial resources to cover her tuition and living expenses for that first year.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for your suggestions, Emily. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for calling.
All right. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Emily, I have a few quick questions that I would just want to go through from our live chat viewers as well. First one is from Reality Facts. Says, can I form a consulting firm while I'm on an H1B visa? And is there any issues in the future?
So when you're on the H1B visa, your employment is restricted to only the company that sponsored your H1B visa. So when you say, can I form a consulting company? Probably not, because that would be considered unauthorized employment. But what you can do is invest in a consulting company and allow someone else who's not an H-1B holder, a green card holder or citizen, or maybe someone who's on H-4 EAD or something like that, that doesn't have that restricted employment authorization. They can form the company, they can run the company, they can do the payroll, they can get the contracts and all of that sort of thing, and you can earn a profit from that investment. But anything beyond just being a passive investor, you run into the very gray area of, is this unauthorized employment? And USCIS has a lot of tools they use to dig into company background information. They're able to figure out who owns the company, who's the registered agent of the company, who's the attorney for the company. They'll find all of the family relationships. And so, and they, people a lot of times get into trouble when they're on an H-1B doing too many activities for their company that they've invested in. So definitely stay away from doing the activities of running the business or forming the business. Just stick to investing until you have an unrestricted work permit like an EAD or something like that.
Gotcha. Thanks, Emily. Another quick question. This is from Atul Mohan. He says, Canada issues about 10,000 open work permits to H-1B visa holders. What do you think? Is this like a real opportunity for stuck H-1B holders, or is it just another political stunt? My priority date is June of 2015. What would Emily do?
Oh, good question. So I don't know a lot about Canadian economy, the job market and things. So I just kind of read what people say in Twitter and that sort of thing. I understand, and again, I'm not a Canadian immigration lawyer either. My understanding is this is a work permit that doesn't require you to have an employer sponsor. So it's kind of open to you to get that work permit, move to Canada, and then work and do whatever you want, find a job once you get there. But can the Canadian economy support 10,000 new tech workers coming into Canada? Are there going to be jobs for that? Is there going to be enough housing for that? I've heard they have a housing problem like we do in a lot of our big cities too. So I don't know if that particular program is the answer for a lot of people. I think it might be a good backup plan. I also know a lot of people use Canada, as, their permanent residence process as a backup plan while they're waiting out the U.S. immigration process. With a 2015 priority date, you're definitely in a better situation than a lot of people that are after you. So your wait may not be as long as a lot of other people. So I might only use that if I had to, like if I was facing a job loss in the U.S. or something like that, then it might be worth it. I think one of the good things with that program is hopefully it's a wake-up call to the U.S. that, hey, Canada gets it. They understand. They know they need these workers. They want these workers. They're trying to attract them while as we're doing everything we can to close the doors. And at some point, we're going to be losing out on the global talent search. People are going to choose elsewhere, and that's going to hurt our economy. That's going to hurt our businesses. Hopefully, we see that before it's too late. So maybe this is a good thing for the U.S. to figure out that, hey, maybe we should be more like Canada and actually try to attract these workers and try to retain them so that we don't lose out.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Emily. Let's take our next caller. Okay, caller with number ending in 4864. 4864, we're ready for you now. Hello?
Hi, Emily. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible. Please go ahead, sir.
Okay. Emily, I was listening to your discussion about that all dates becoming current. So let's say hypothetically this is true. So I believe everyone would get their EADs and APs. Now, what would be that EAD? Would that be a GC EAD or just an EAD? And let's say somebody applies for a job. There's always a question that would you require sponsorship in future? So what would be the answer to that question? Would that be yes or no?
So assuming we're talking about the filing dates being made current in October, it would be a GC EAD, just like everybody got in the October 2020 rush with all of that. And so that is an unrestricted EAD card. It doesn't require employer sponsorship. So you would be able, assuming you're letting go of your H1B or your L1 or whatever your non-immigrant status is and going to rely just on having that pending 485 and use your EAD to work and your AP to travel, you can answer that question, no, I don't require sponsorship. The only thing that company could be asked to do would be to sign an I-485 Supplement J, assuming you're using that new job offer to continue to support the green card if it's in a similar occupation and your 485 has been pending for 180 days. But that's not exactly sponsorship. That's just the company confirming they've offered you a job that qualifies for AC-21 to allow your green card process to continue.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for calling. Emily, I have some questions for you. This first one is from Kalyan Reddivari. Says, hi, Emily, I work for ABC University. I'm planning to file EB2 NIW. My employer is willing to provide a letter stating my research work. Do you think it would be enough along with my master's to file?
Potentially. So, the EB2 category, you have to have the advanced degree. So the master's is proof of that. But to qualify for the national interest waiver portion of that, you're basically saying that we want the government to waive the labor certification and the job offer requirement because it's in the national interest for this person to receive a green card. So to prove that something in the national interest, they want to see it has substantial merit. And so just having the reference letter from the university employer may not be enough. Of course, it depends on what it says, but a lot of times it's helpful to include awards you've received, publications you've done, patents maybe that you have, media coverage. Not saying that all of that's absolutely required, but generally these NIW filings are quite thick. There's a lot of documentation. So it would be unusual to have just the master's degree and maybe just one letter from the university. So typically would need more than just that.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Emily. Let's take our next question. This is from Viraj K. He says, compelling circumstance EAD was approved from June of 2022 to 23. However, never received physical card. Now USCIS has sent a new card. Will it have new validity date or same expired date of June 2023?
So assuming that you filed for a replacement card rather than filing a new application, I think it's going to come with the same dates. So they're just replacing the card that they issued because it was lost. They're not issuing a new extension of that compelling circumstance, because to get the extension, you have to document that you're still facing those compelling circumstances and still meet all of the requirements. I can't say for certain because it's kind of a relatively new EAD that not a lot of people have filed extensions for yet. But I think it kind of depends on what exactly you filed to get the new card. But if it's typical, because the card was lost, it would just have been a replacement card application, and that would come with the same dates.
Okay, got it. And the next question is from Venkat CH. He says, I'm working with federal client via contracting, and now I received a full-time offer from another federal client. Can I take this full-time offer while already working for the other client?
So from an immigration standpoint, assuming this is H1B, the new potential job, federal agency could file a concurrent H1B to allow you to work for them and continue your work for your existing employer that's placing you at the federal agency. So yes, you can work for multiple employers, even if it's federal, by filing a concurrent H1B. I don't know if there's any restrictions from the federal agency side on working for two agencies at once. It's not really an immigration question, but from an immigration standpoint, yes, it is possible to file concurrent H1B to allow you to work for two employers at the same time.
And technically, he's not working for the other federal client mainly because he's contracting for them. He's not a full-time employee there. So his actual employer would, I'm guessing, be someone else, right? Is that correct?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. All right. There's another question. This is from SAAA. Says, as a green card holder, can we donate to the presidential election?
Yes, I believe citizens and permanent residents only are able to donate to political parties and political activities. Yes.
Okay.
I believe.
Also, if a green card holder loses a job, can we get unemployment benefits?
Yes, I don't see any issue with that because that allows unrestricted employment. And at that point, you're no longer a non-immigrant, so you don't have to worry about public charge and all those things that came up a few years ago. So yes, you should be eligible for that.
Okay, gotcha. And any ideas about how to get the unemployment benefits, or is that something you tell them to go Google?
Yeah, so that would be mainly a Google thing. Each state runs their own separate unemployment office. And they usually within the major cities have a local office that you can contact. But it's basically filling out an application online, providing your employment dates and that sort of thing. And then they reach out to the employer to confirm the date of separation and to confirm what your pay was and all of that. And then they'll contact you to let you know how much your unemployment will be, how long it will last, and that sort of thing.
Okay. Got it. Also, one other question, this is from Sairam. He says, how can I confirm that my H1B has been selected? Is there any way to verify it? Also, how can I verify if my employer has filed multiple H1Bs using any sister companies?
Oh, great question. So the only way to verify it would be to really ask the employer to provide the selection notice. I suppose an unscrupulous employer could make a fake one, so I don't think there's a way for you to validate the selection
Okay.
notice you're provided. And then I'm not aware of a way for you to confirm specifically whether your employer has filed duplicates for other people or has given your name to another company to put you in multiple times.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more kind of trying to find out as much as you can about the employer, look them up on My Visa Jobs, look them up on the H1B Data Hub, see what kind of applications they're filing and have filed in the past. Reach out to other employees of the company on LinkedIn maybe to try to see if they've had a good experience, you know, just try to get as much information as you can. Typically, if it's the company that you've been working for while you're on OPT or something like that, and you have the job with them and they've been paying you and you have that track history with them, you're probably in a good shape unless they've also given your name to another company. But if you have no history with the company, you've not been working with them and you just came across them because a friend recommended them or they were, you know, saying that they would file or that sort of thing, that's where you have to be really careful because those companies, obviously they didn't actually have a job for you when they registered you because you're not working for them. So you have to be real careful with those and just try to get as much information about them as you can.
Emily, has USCIS published this list of companies anywhere that people at least can get a hold of to see? Because I think, you know, in terms of telling them don't file the petition, don't go forward with it if you feel like you have been submitted multiple times. Like this person said, if there's no way to verify, aren't these employees at a disadvantage then because they may not even know that this is happening?
Yeah, that's a very good point. And no, I'm not aware of any publicly public lists that USCIS puts out there of the list of companies or something like that. We had to get it through the Freedom of Information Act. Maybe I'll talk with the attorneys in the office if they think about.
Can they reach out to an immigration attorney then to find out if this is indeed the case? Or?
So not all attorneys would have that list. I think if, you know, if an attorney submitted their registration, that attorney should be able to confirm for them that, yes, this is a legitimate company, you know, that because the attorney has a relationship with them, but we've even seen some attorneys that were involved in the duplicate filing,
right.
You know, did
no,
the
I'm talking about them
registrations
reaching out to like their own immigration attorney.
Yeah, so I think not everyone has that data. I mean, our office does have it. Not that I'm trying to invite thousands of people to reach out to us.
Asking in general, you know, if that's...
Yeah. So they'd have to, I think there's probably not that many attorneys that are familiar enough with kind of the, what we see as the common factors in these kinds of companies. So not everybody would be able to help guide them on that. You know, certainly they can set up a consultation with me or our attorneys, and we can try to help them figure out whether it's a legitimate job offer or not.
And Emily, why is it that you think that, why do you think USCIS hasn't put out this list, you know, and made this public?
Yeah, I don't know. They should. I think they should. I don't know if they're just don't want to face backlash from the companies, but they've put out lists of companies before. I mean, they have the whole H1B data hub. I think it would be great for them to put that out because then people can truly see. I mean, it's so easy to see these companies that are clearly not legitimate companies and submitting thousands of registrations.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you, Emily. Also, a couple of other questions. One is from PP. He says, I have 𝐒𝐕𝐀𝐒𝐈. What if I lose my job? Can I start my own business?
So assuming that you no longer have your non-immigrant status and you're relying just on the EAD and your pending adjustment of status, so when you lose a job in that situation, there is no grace period. It's not like you have the 60-day grace period. At the same time, you do have the ability to take that green card process with you to any new employer to keep the process going as long as the job is similar occupation. And self-employment is included in that. So if you've decided at this point that you want to start a business and that business is similar to the work that you were originally sponsored for, you can use self-employment and submit the 485 Supplement J in that situation to keep the process going. We would definitely recommend working with an attorney for that process to make sure that you have all of your ducks in a row in the event you're called in for an interview or if you get an RFE or something like that, but it's definitely doable.
Got it. Also, this one question from PP says, my wife got her combo card. However, her I-131 is not approved in the system. Is this a mistake? And what can they do about it?
It could be a mistake, and it's really hard to know because it's very possible that it's a glitch in the online system and her card was actually approved, but the message is not showing online. So I'd be curious to know if you got the approval notice for the I-765 and 131 in the mail, and maybe it's just the online system is where the error is. You might want to reach out to the USCIS ombudsman and ask them if they can verify that this was properly approved, because obviously if it wasn't, you don't want to travel and get stuck outside the country. I've worked with the ombudsman on not exactly that situation, but other similar situations where we're just trying to get them to confirm that what we got is actually correct. And they did help. So it might take some time, but you might want to consider that.
Got it. Okay. And question from Ashish Kulkarni. He says, my priority date is October 2016. I moved out of US and in Canada on PR. Would be Canadian soon. Child is a US citizen. Would I be eligible for the TN visa, denouncing or not activating I-140 as job may not exist?
Yeah, so once you become a Canadian citizen, you are eligible for the TN visa, which is very similar to the H1B, but a lot easier to process. But there are limited jobs. So the H1B is for any specialty occupation. The TN, there's actually a list of jobs. So you have to make sure your job is on the list. But yes, as soon as you're a Canadian citizen, you're eligible for that. You're eligible for traveling into the U.S. without getting the visa stamped at the consulate, because Canadians are visa exempt. The only thing you can't do is use your Canadian citizenship to get the green card because you're still born in India.
India, okay. Got it. Thank you so much, Emily. All right, folks, I know we keep running out of time, but unfortunately, as always, good things must also come to an end. Emily, thank you so much for being on the show today and for helping us out here. We really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And to all our viewers, thank you. We'll be back same time, same place next week with our immigration experts as well. So bring us your questions, give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. And we will see you same time, same place next week then. Until then, have a great week. Have a safe weekend. Bye.
ఆకర్షణీయమైన చీరలు, అప్పురపరిచే ధరలు, అందరికీ నచ్చిన అందరూ మెచ్చిన షో మన లక్కీ మహిళ. బోలెడంత ఎక్సైట్మెంట్, వండర్ఫుల్ విన్నింగ్ మూమెంట్స్.
ఎగ్జాక్ట్ చెప్పారు. మీరే గెలుచుకున్నారండి. కంగ్రాచులేషన్స్. $220.
సెలబ్రిటీ హోస్టులు, అదిరిపోయే పంచులు, సరదా సరదా కబుర్లు.
ఆశ, దోశ, అప్పడం, వడ, హెల్ప్ మీరు ఆడుతున్నారు.
ఇలా మరెన్నో మెమరబుల్ మూమెంట్స్ తోటి థర్డ్ యానివర్సరీ జరుపుకుంటోంది మన లక్కీ మహిళ. Watch it live only on TVASIA Telugu. మీ అందరికీ థర్డ్ యానివర్సరీ శుభాకాంక్షలు. ఆకర్షణీయమైన చీరలు, అబ్బురపరిచే ధరలు.